Arsenal have shown so much growth. As a team, as a club, and when I say club, I'm talking the manager, the ownership, and even more importantly, the fans. When I speak about the growth for Arsenal, I am referring to the way they handled today. Sunderland came, and I had this feeling in the build-up to the game that we would see a little bit of a stinky performance from Sunderland. A team not trying to attack, a team looking to stifle Arsenal. The vast majority of teams go to the Emirates and don't want to win. They want to avoid being beaten up. They want to avoid being smashed. They play in a cowardly way. Very few teams have operated differently this season. Man United are one where we had a plan to attack. Today, Sunderland turned up and said, we're not going to sit him. We're not going to be stinky. We're not going to not make it easy for Arsenal, because sitting deep against them is hard for any team in the world to break down 11 men behind the ball. But they're going to make it hard by being a threat, being a thorn in their side. And they had 50% of the ball at the Emirates. In the last 10 minutes of the first half, they had 69% of the ball, but they were attacking with it. It wasn't pointless possession in their own half, just knocking the ball around, no threat. They were trying to score. So first and foremost, I want to congratulate Sunderland. The problem that you see is that they actually tried to win. They actually tried to play. And today we saw Arsenal score 3 goals. Could have been more. 3 goals from open play. The media won't talk about this because they like to lie to us football fans. But that now puts Arsenal on 27 goals from open play. That puts them into second place in the league. Only 4 open play goals behind Man City. But of course, vastly more when it comes to set pieces, which are a very, very important component of scoring goals. Teams open up, Arsenal score from open play. And I'm not saying Sunderland today were completely wide open and it was easy for Arsenal. They actually made it very hard. They tracked back and got in position, back into position well. They were hard to break down. And when I speak of Arsenal's growth, this was a game last season, Arsenal don't win. This was a game for the past 2 or 3 years against a side that's landing a few blows on their chin that I think this Arsenal team under Mikel Arteta would have dropped points to. I really do believe that. And there were times today where you could hear the crowd becoming a bit nervous, but I was watching players out there like Gabriel, like Declan Rice, like Victor Gyökeres, who came on from the bench, like Zubimendi. They just grabbed the ball by the horns, the game by the scruff of the neck, and you can come up with another saying that connects to it. And they said, I am. And they took the game to Sunderland and got the job done. Now, I wouldn't call it a kind of stinky Champions win where they were by far the second best team and they scraped and grinded out a result. But Arsenal did have to grind that out. They had to play through adversity. And that, for me, was exciting to watch as a spectacle. Can they do it? Will they hold their nerve? When they get the chances, are they going to take them? Will the defensive line and goalkeeper make a mistake? I actually think Raya made a few mistakes today, which he got covered for, but will they make mistakes that cost them? And Arsenal got it done. They can now put their feet up, watch Liverpool versus Man City. Worst case scenario, City win, and you where you were. You where you were, but you're one game nearer to being champions of England. If Liverpool go and win, that is a 9-point gap at the top of the English Premier League. Aston Villa, as we know, didn't win again today. They didn't win again, which is why when Arsenal had those 3 games without a victory, for me, I was turning around to a lot of people, Arsenal fans, and saying, don't lose your minds. Because in that same period of time, the last 5 games, Villa have had a worse run. City are having a worse run. As bad as you were for a couple of them games, and as poor as the results were in some of those games, you've come out of that 4 or 5 game period with more points than your title rivals. And sometimes it isn't always about, in a title race, it isn't just about looking at yourself. You've got to look at what's around you. What can you afford to do? What can't you afford to do? And I think Arsenal have navigated it very, very well. So there is a guarantee of 9 points over Aston Villa now, which is a fairly sizable gap. And if Liverpool win tomorrow, it's 9 points over Manchester City as well. And I think the way Arsenal approached this game, the mental strength they demonstrated is huge proof that you, if you're an Arsenal fan watching, have grown. Now, on top of that, and I think really importantly, is I want to speak about a couple of their players. There's loads of Arsenal players over the course of this season that you can praise and talk about. But if we're isolating it to today's game, I want to start with Martin Zubimendi. I want to speak on Zubimendi because, yes, against Manchester United, he made a mistake. Yes, against Manchester United, he didn't have a great moment. And what I saw was a onslaught from a certain percentage of very ungrateful, very undignified Arsenal fans killing him. Rivals, of course, are going to go in and banter him. I, as a United fan, laughed and, I'm glad we beat you. But that won't ever impact my football analysis because I believe in speaking honestly. Zubimendi has been by far one of the best signings of the season at any club, and he's one of Arsenal's best signings in the last 20 years. That is how good a player he is. Now, aside from the goal, his overall play today was just majestic and cultured. But the goal was decisive. And earlier on this season, we did a live match reaction for one of the first games of the campaign. And our good friend Ash, who comes on our shows, is a Newcastle fan, said you can't read too much into the goals from Zubimendi because he's not a regular goal scorer. And because he's not a regular goal scorer, I don't think Arsenal fans should celebrate it too much. To be honest, one of the most warped, strange, agenda-fueled opinions I've ever heard. But I listened to it through. What is that now? 5-6 goals for Zubimendi? It's almost as if the football gods heard that comment and said, okay, hold my beer. But the goal from Zubimendi was amazing. One, the pressure was starting to build because Sunderland were making it difficult. And in those periods of a game, what do you need? What do you need? Moments of brilliance. As football fans, we must advocate for more. As football fans, we must push for more moments of brilliance, and you saw him do it. The way he cuts across the ball, the way he strikes it with the outside of his foot, the swaz and the swerve on that strike was imperious. Hits the post, and I always think a goal looks better when it hits a post or a crossbar and goes in. There's something extra special about it. And that, for me, was the moment that everyone in that stadium, every player, the manager, and more importantly, the fans went, whew. The pressure was relieved. And I felt the second half Arsenal at times were in cruise control, but had the game exactly where they wanted it. Exactly where they wanted it. Only 2 shots in the whole second half, barely any XG for Sunderland. And Arsenal, again, it was hard for them because Sunderland then, they weren't as expansive. They didn't want to open up as much. But Arsenal, a really brilliant substitution was made. Around the 60th minute of the game, Gabriel Jesus comes off and Victor Gyökeres comes in. Now, Gyökeres, in his last 5-6 games for Arsenal, started to score goals, semi-final goals against Chelsea, goals in the Champions League, including the stunner against Inter Milan. And I believe Gyökeres right here, right now, has just had his very best moment and most important moment in an Arsenal shirt. At 1-0, if you had gone into those last 10 minutes, 5 minutes of the game, you know exactly what Sunderland are going to do. It's going to be throw the kitchen sink at it. The crowd might become nervous. Who knows what can happen? Ball ricochets off somebody's backside, falls to a Sunderland player 1-1, and an opportunity wasted to go 9 points clear. Victor Gyökeres comes in and scored today to what I would consider to be poachers' goals. Number 9's goals. Goals that I think we all expected him to score more of and sooner in the season, but rarely had the opportunities created for him. The first I loved because there was a little bit of a slip from the player, which happens on these wet, wintry days, but he improvised, gets his foot to the ball, and buries it into the bottom corner. And the third was a bit of a cherry on top of the icing on top of the cake, completely killed the game off, helps him with his goal bonuses, but more importantly, builds that confidence. A great counter-attacking goal. Martinelli squares it to him. He puts it away. And then, in terms of pressure being relieved, you start to look at Victor Gyökeres. You start to look at the amount of goals that he has now scored. And again, you'll get people that will say, well, he's not scoring at the same rate as Haaland when he arrived. Well, nobody ever really has done that. But I think that's 8 goals now in the Premier League. So that moves him into he must be somewhere near the top 10 Premier League goal scorers, unless I'm mistaken. I'm actually going to check that whilst I'm saying this. Well, he's not quite in the top 10 because he's just gone to 8, but Coupe and Welbeck and Enzo Fernandez are on 8 goals. So he's joint with them. He's not going to catch Erling Haaland this year, but there's a chance of catching Thiago. There's a chance of catching, Hugo Ekitike has had a lot of praise this season, and rightfully so, for being a brilliant signing. He's got 10 goals. Gyökeres has 8. He's starting to find his feet. 4 in the Champions League as well in 5 starts. 1 in the League Cup. Only started 2 games in that so far. And he's starting to find his feet in English football. And I'm not, again, going to say he's a complete and utter hit and that there isn't more for Victor Gyökeres to improve on. But only a few short weeks ago, I sat on one of my biggest podcasts of the week with Staffy and with Don, and they just kept on pushing and pushing. Terry, you've got to say he's a flop. You've got to say he's a flop. He ain't it. And as I said, that at the time, there's loads for him to improve on. But I wasn't ready to say he was an absolute shocking signing, that he was an absolute waste. Because I believe there was a player in there that could score big and important goals for Arsenal. And that's exactly what he is doing at this point. That's exactly what he's now started to do. Has it got to continue? Absolutely. Is it enough to just have a purple patch? No. But credit where credit is due to Gyökeres with the goals today. But more importantly, I want to say a big well done to Mikel Arteta for making that substitution, for that change when he made it, because it was perfect. And had he not done it, or had he made a different substitution, it hadn't worked, he would have been criticised for it. But it was absolutely brilliant from him today. But overall, a fantastic win for Arsenal. 9 points clear at the top of the league. You can join myself as a United fan now for the rest of the day and the weekend. Feet up. Can enjoy the rest of the games, whatever happens, because you got your business done. But Arsenal, let's see what happens tomorrow. But if Liverpool do beat City, they're the clear favourites from here. Like, share, and subscribe, please, people. Get that done. Can't wait to read your comments. Massive win for the Gunners.